whole spiel. I did. I had a whole spiel for y'all and was starting to talk about history. And I didn't press the go live button. I just want to start with that really quickly to make everybody kind of laugh at it. That sucks.
My man was really all hyped up and then just boom.
Oh, I can still get hyped. I'm still good. I'm still in a good mood. I'm just like, I'm kind of befuddled at myself right now. I'm just like, I really let that happen. Anyways.
Damn, and here I thought you were a professional streamer.
Yeah, give me a second to do the starting thing for like 2 seconds, just cuz.
And which one's that? I couldn't do that. No. How was it? Was it good?
Bro, I need to get into G Fuel.
No, you don't.
You make it sound so good, though.
Because it's good doesn't mean it's good for you.
Do I look like I care about my body? Exactly.
You should care about your heart.
Bro, I went in the hospital for like blood work when I was like 4. I think I'm good.
I know I am. Thank you. Thank you. You too, buddy.
Aww.
Do we have to go into a private chat?
Hey, step up. That's a step up. Look at you.
Look at me being a little bitch boy. I love you too.
Keep up your fire.
So what a fail that we had earlier. I can't believe that I let that happen.
Oh boy.
Anyways, if you're just now joining, thank you. Sorry about that. Was not supposed to happen that way. Like, at all. But it did. So, interesting. Today I've got some things that I'd like to share with you guys for once. I know the streams I'm normally playing a video game and fuck, this hat's coming off. Fuck it. It's getting annoying already. Alright, but I do have some pretty decent information that I kind of surfaced more towards the end of last year in 2020. My aunt was going through a lot of our family history and trying to just kind of piece together some of the stuff that we haven't been able to go through yet. A lot of that just simply because of the writing style in the 1800s. But we came across some pension records and discovered that we have 2 ancestors that fought with the Berdan sharpshooters, specifically in the 1st United States Sharpshooters Company B, serving up until July of 64. Sorry for the guys in Discord that have already heard this before. I do apologize. I take full blame for that.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
You're good.
But as we go along, I have pension records because they serving in the theater that they did, which would have obviously been the Eastern Theater under command of the can't say the because the Army of the Potomac changes hands when it comes to commanders more times than a girl changes clothes, so to speak. So, that being said, you know,
Ooh,
he
boy.
serves under the Army of the Potomac. We'll go with that because I don't want to sit there and put blasts on a commander for being crappy like McClellan. Anyways,
Ha!
That's great.
All my homies hate that guy.
McClellan. We can do a shit on McClellan Fest all day, man. I'm for
Oh,
it.
can we?
I live
That's
for
what
it.
we're
Yeah,
doing.
I can do a McClellan overview stream. I want everybody to bring one thing to the table tomorrow. If anyone's available tomorrow, yeah, I would love for someone
Fuck
to
yeah.
bring me like 2 or 3 things about McClellan, and let's all like openly discuss McClellan tomorrow on stream. That would be badass.
I will be there to watch.
Perfect.
'Cause
I
know
would probably
nothing.
watch too, only because
Lemon,
I
you
don't
want to
know how
debate
time
McClellan?
goes.
You want to pick roles? Like, I mean, I can take a to try and I don't know if I could try to defend. Nah.
Who was the one that was defending McClellan last time?
Who was someone that was defending McClellan in my server?
Yeah, remember?
I know it wasn't me because I know next to
This was
nothing.
a while
about
ago.
that man.
Was it Jeff? Joof? Was it that guy? That used to be coming to our discussions. 'Cause I know I was kind of being really mean to McClellan. We did our Antietam discussion. I shouldn't have gotten that far into some
I
of
don't
the.
think so.
But nothing I said wasn't true. It wasn't opinion either. Everything I said was backed. Like it was just straight up command decision maneuvers that I thought were not even that I thought that are just actively wrong. It fucks everything up. But
I don't remember. Anyways,
okay. Anyways,
Anyway,
yeah, off track here. What I have in my hand
God.
are the records, the pension records, and the disability records that end up going to the Supreme Court that pertain to Francis J. McGraw, which would be my great-grandfather, who, again, was the first United States sharpshooter. So we'll go over the wounding, we'll go over that too. I have more information also that we'll talk about. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. I do want to show the books real quickly because I always like to get people to read and engage and study after these streams if they can. The first one we're going to use here is the Berdan's Sharpshooters. Great regimental history written by a member that actually served with the Berdan Sharpshooters, so you're kind of getting first-hand account of a lot of stuff. So that is obviously an invaluable source, and I highly recommend it. It's like $20 on eBay if you can find it, and I believe publisher there is Broadfoot Publishing. I think actually both of these are Broadfoot, believe it or not. But the second one is going to pertain to my Confederate ancestor, Edward Samuel Duffy, who does serve in Parker's Virginia Battery. And this one's written by Robert K. Crick, who is a modern-day historian, but a very great modern-day historian at that. So this one here mentions Duffy, who is my great-great-grandfather, which, again, served in this battery. He's mentioned multiple times by name. It brings up facts that he's in a string band. You know, there's talk of him firing the last shot at Gettysburg. There's even talk of him firing that shot at First Manassas that blocks Cub Run and just completely wrecks a Union retreat that's trying to retreat back to Washington in utter panic and chaos. So he's accredited with some very serious stuff, and to see that documented and sourced in books like this is phenomenal. So again, if you get interested and want to read further in anything we talk about tonight, these are the two that I'm recommending and I'm pulling through for some of these talks. All right, without further ado, we're getting into some of the stuff about Francis J. McGraw. King Shot, I'm looking for the general. I don't have any sponsorship by the insurance company yet, but when I do, I got you. All my papers are flying to the floor, exactly where I want them. So for those that are watching that may have played War of Rights with us before, you may have noticed that we are Company B, 1st United States Sharpshooters. I don't know how someone didn't take that already either. But those are those pesky guys that wear those green uniforms. Oh.
all my homies hate the green uniform.
Wait a minute. It looks like I've got... Yes, I've got a transcribed letter, so this is cool. I can actually give a detailed account. So this one is from... It's at the top is addressed the United States of America, District of Columbia. Again, this one's pertaining to a wounding record. So he's trying to get a pension, and he's describing the disability that he gains while he's in the war and what causes him ultimately to go to the pension office to get some moolah from his fucking wound. So I'm excited to read this with you guys. It says, before me, a notary public with and for the district aforesaid personally appeared Francis J. McGraw, well known to me to be the person he describes himself. and being duly sworn declares and says in reference to his claim for original invalid pension number 265951, now pending before the Honorable Commissions of Pensions as follows: that he was born in the city of Albany, New York, and has resided there continuously up to the time of his enlistment in Company B of the 1st Regiment of the United States Sharpshooters at that place. That his occupation for 5 years immediately preceding his enlistment was that of a clerk in stores of various kinds, dry goods and crockery stores, and in tending bar in a hotel, all in the city of Albany. Aforesaid, that during the period from his discharge to the present time he has lived continuous in the city of Washington, District of Columbia, and his occupation has been that of a watchman at the State Department, and he has been idle for the last 5 years, having been able to do no manual labor on account of his disability incurred in service. So this is the reason he's obviously going to the pension office. He's going to try and gain that pension to gain some type of financial income, because without him being able to do manual labor, specifically, in the 1870s, especially 79, it's going to be a little difficult to find work. Unless you have, some really high up there connects, it's going to be tough. Well, the next portion of this is detailing his wounding. So, or the illnesses that he contracts while he's at some of these big name battles. So, through this little brief overview of what happens to him during the war, I think you'll point out some battles that are very serious that he's engaged in, and from there you can look at maps and see how close they really were to some of the frontline action. The next portion reads as follows: that a full and circumstantial history of his disability is as follows. He was first taken with dysentery in the swamps of the Chickahominy at or near Gaines's Mill, Virginia, in June 1862, resulting from swamp fever, and both incurred from standing on picket and in the said swamp, sometimes up to waist in water, and constantly surrounded by the malarial influences protecting the engineer corps while they were laying the bridge across the Chickahominy River. That he was treated for both dysentery and swamp fever in the hospital on Gaines's Mill, and was confined in said hospital some time. That he rejoined his company next at Harrison's Landing, Virginia, and a few days after his arrival he was again sent to hospital suffering with the said dysentery and swamp fever at Harrison's Landing. That he stayed in the hospital there nearly a month, and although sick and weak, still he rejoined the regiment and remained with the army and suffered along with said complaints. And at December of 1862, previous to the Battle of Fredericksburg, he became speechless from cold and exposure and weakened condition of his system for the efforts of diseases aforesaid, and also lost his hearing so that he could only hear the loudest noises. That he continued with the regiment, though suffering greatly, being treated by the regimental surgeon, Surgeon George M. Brennan of the 1st United States Sharpshooters, until the army reached Falmouth, Virginia, and up to March 6, 1863, when he received a furlough for 10 days to go home to Albany. Being then sick and suffering greatly, previous to the expiration of his said furlough, he reported to the medical director of the Albany barracks. He was admitted to the hospital there as sick and unfit for duty, and he was transferred from all the time under medical treatment. He was speechless, his hearing was greatly impaired, and he was suffering from dysentery, which had become chronic before. That his speech came back to him in August 1863 after he had been transferred to the Veterans Reserve Corps, but that he has constantly and continuously suffered with dysentery ever since his discharge from the army, and also with impaired hearing and partial deafness. That since his discharge in July 1864, he was treated at various times in the city of Washington, D.C. by Dr. Miller, was resided on F Street opposite the Ebbett House. That said doctor died several years ago in 1874. Affiant thinks, and he is informed, that said doctor kept no record of his cases by Dr. Ashford, a student of Dr. Miller, and that Affiant has been treated several times by Dr. Ashford, who resides on New York Avenue between 13th and 14th Streets in the city. That Affiant has treated himself all along too, and been dieting himself very carefully. That since his discharge he has performed no manual labor for the reason that his complaint of dysentery has prevented his being able to perform manual labor. That he is still suffering from chronic dysentery and partial deafness, that previous to his enlistment he never suffered any ailment, and particularly was never deaf, nor had any attack or symptoms of dysentery when enlisted, necessarily was strong and able-bodied, or he would have been rejected. Subscribed and sworn to before me this 28th day of May, A.D. 1879, and I testify I have no interest in this claim. That was the answer he was given. That Lemon next door, thank you for the Shrek and welcome to the stream, buddy. So given that kind of answer, I mean, you know, it does show you that a lot of these veterans that were actually ill were looked at as obviously fit completely and maybe were faking it or trying to get out of combat. So that starts up on another wild goose chase later, and that's half the reason I wanted to do this, because, you know, knowing that these guys are being told no pension, there has to be some type of reason for that, whether the clerk was just having a bad day and wanted to be an asshole. You know, it's all kind of different, I guess, when it comes to that. But shit, Lemon with the sub, thank you, dude. I appreciate that. So I guess Lemon makes number 2 in the count there for the hoodie. 3 more and the hoodie comes in.
I want the hoodie.
You two are in the raffle for sure. Thank you again for that, man. I really appreciate the support. I have here just again trying to go through some stuff about what I could find on them. I did find a few things on obviously the New York sharpshooters, because they're the New York sharpshooters. Everybody knows who they are. I'm gonna do a brief history over them because I don't want to get too bogged into just reading stuff that I've typed and worked on. You know, I can do that all the time. But the one I have here, it says, sniping or sharpshooting was a recognized psychological weapon at the outset of the Civil War. Champion marksman Hiram C. Berdan of New York, authorized to raise a regiment of sharpshooters for federal service, began recruiting competitions in the summer of 1861. Qualified recruits had to place 10 shots in a 10-inch circle at 200 yards, firing any rifle they chose from any position they preferred. In this way, Berdan organized companies in New York City, Albany, New York, and in the states of New Hampshire. So, again, the sharpshooters are very special when it comes to the way they serve and the way they're going to fight and be implemented into Civil War combat. They're obviously not your traditional stand in a regimental line, ready, aim, fire, volley. That's not how that's going to work for them. These guys are going to be equipped with a little bit of a more advanced weapon, so to speak, that they have a better reload time on as well, because the reload on breech loading rifles or the reload time on even a carbine is just significantly better than anything a musket's going to be able to carry. I mean, you can tell me this guy's the fastest alive loading an 1853 Enfield or a Springfield, and the guy with the sharps is going to completely destroy him when it comes to loading. So, given that advantage, obviously, you could use lesser numbers, was the idea of these regimental pieces. So, I mean, you obviously have regimental numbers, but you don't keep them in lines. You have them spread out. This is a predecessor to Special Forces. If you see how some of them operate and how they move, some of the patterns that the Berdan sharpshooters exhibited were directly attributed to what we see today when it comes to the Special Forces and some of their movements. And it was interesting to see that implemented at places like Gettysburg. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Battle of Little Round Top. Lemon, I know you're very familiar with that. Well, the Battle of Little Round Top at Gettysburg.
Oh, that's my
So, yeah, the sharpshooters are actually the ones that are going to engage the Alabamians first. And this takes place very early, too. It's not part of the jumping off campaign part, so it's not like just something that instantly happens. This takes place earlier in the day. When the 3rd Corps starts occupying that area under Dan Sickles, and he sees that the ground he's standing in, to his opinion, isn't something he wants to stay in, and decides to move his troops forward, and, you know, the bullshit that plays out after that. While that's happening, there needs to be some type of scouting to really ascertain how far the enemy is in advance, correct? I mean, that's just the logical maneuver there. He is going to send the Berdan sharpshooters. Specifically, I think it's the 2nd U.S. or there's a Vermont, someone in Vermont, I can't remember, I think it's the 3rd Vermont. There's a monument way out past Warfield Ridge over there by the Seminary Ridge at the very, very end. So you're like almost facing Peach Orchard. Okay, I mean, it's out there. And the sharpshooters will actually go all the way into the Confederate lines before the Alabamians are formed and ready to completely attack. So they'll make contact with them, and when they make contact with them from there, it's a lulling fight battle. So they'll shoot a few rounds into the oncoming Confederates and then fall back to a fence line, reload, pop a few more rounds until they got close, fall back, reload, and repeat. And by them doing that, they were able to stem off a much larger Confederate attack, kind of breaking some of the momentum that could have been gained as they're moving forward and fighting, because they're able to take more men out with smaller numbers. Remind you, this is multiple troops. I mean, you know, I think I would say astronomical numbers when it comes to the ratio with the Redan sharpshooters and the Alabamians that are coming on to attack. But that's what ends up leading into Little Round Top, because those sharpshooters will move to the top of Big Round Top, occupy
boys.
that. What's going on, man?
Dude, my Quest 2 came in today.
Hey, hold on,
It
you're
was so
interrupted. Hey,
good.
hold on. I know you're just coming in, you don't know, but we're doing a stream talking about history and stuff. I know I'm just letting you know if you're interested in sticking around, cool. If not, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
All right.
don't know
Yeah, I
if
didn't mean.
my-
I wasn't trying to be rude and like cut you off. I was just like letting you know because you just jumped in. I was like, oh, probably should have announced something about that. It might have
Yeah,
helped.
it's fine.
All right. But yeah, getting to that point too is that they were able to take Big Round Top, and when the Alabamians took that gave the sharpshooters time to hold and be able to form a much secure defensive perimeter with the 20th Maine. But then you know how it goes from there. They charge down the hill and smack the Johnnies of some forceps, just like to be reckoned with. But the sharpshooters were able to, I think, really give that opportunity to Chamberlain and the 20th Maine to hold as long as they did because of the action that they did. I mean, had they not have taken out that many Confederates, they could have been overwhelmed very easily.
Oh yeah, you'll be amazed with just like
Yeah.
fucking just a small handful can do.
No, absolutely. And that's
Because you also got to remember is that at Little Round Top with the 20th Maine and all them, they fucking ran out of ammo.
Yeah,
They
I
were
mean,
just like, "Oh,
they exhausted
shit, boys."
ammunition. And, we're not talking, I don't think, complete and total 0 rounds. I mean, we're looking at more of a level
Well, they
of,
were
like...
pretty much out to the point that they had to charge down.
Yeah, you're considering it an exhausted amount of ammo. Like, you just don't have it.
Yeah.
You can't put
Like,
you can't put up solid volleys at this point.
Yeah, like considering like they still had like some ammo, but a lot of guys just fucking holding that.
Yeah,
hill.
and when there's that
They're
momentum
like,
of
"Oh
a
shit, man,
charge,
I'm out."
'cause they're already charging, your best option is to countercharge.
Oh yeah, especially when you have an uphill advantage.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
People need to understand that Chamberlain's attack is a countercharge. It's not a charge, it is a countercharge. He is charging against an oncoming charge of Confederates. They didn't just stop and shoot. They're charging too. Because it's weak on both sides, that either line's going to break. I think it's really dependent on who's going to make contact first and actually hit into one of those lines.
Well, and I think one thing that helps is that, if I'm correct, Chamberlain was charging downhill. So
He
they
was.
didn't have to exhaust
And-
as much effort. as
It's
the
not only the
Confederates.
downhill, but it's the line and the way he executed that charge. So
Yeah,
imagine a backwards L for a second, or a V, okay? And his idea is to swing a door. Now, if you could picture it in your mind, he's swinging. All right, so I'm trying to get his line's kind of angled like this. He's got guys up front, and then he's got a line like this. It's got that V shape, okay? When he charges downhill, his line steps off, and then it wheels. And when it wheels, you're shutting that door, so to speak, on a line of attacking Confederates, and that just... I mean, that breaks because you have such a force hitting you on that left now. Because you're focused on a line coming at you, and then that line swings and flanks you.
Yeah,
I mean, that's theoretically what's happening.
And to add on to that, so the Confederates have also tried pushing like that left flank, so that's why it was very urgent for them to kind of shut that door because it kind of stops them.
No,
because
for sure.
Have any of y'all been a Little Round Top in real life?
Of course.
No.
Okay.
Do you want me
So,
to pull
to
up a
people that
picture of
haven't-
something? Is there something of Little Round Top that you wanted me to pull up?
No, I was just saying, like, if y'all have been there, it's a steep fucking hill.
Yeah,
like that-
It's
it's
a
not-
rocky,
it's not like a-
steep, rocky hill.
Yeah, it's a rocky, steep hill. Like, sure, it's all covered in vegetation now, but
It
you
was
could
covered in
just
vegetation
tell.
then too. Yeah, but I mean, it burned pretty quickly.
So, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But also because during the Battle of Gettysburg, the trees there were much smaller. Like you can see the top of fucking Little Round Top from Devil's Den. That's how new like the vegetation there was. And like it was such a steep hill as well because so like, you got the Confederates just trying to climb this fucking hill one side, push them on the other, and then they're pretty much stopping shooting and then keep pushing. That's all that they're doing. Fucking, and then the Union is just having to kind of outmaneuver that. And then once they had the ability to fucking countercharge, they
I'm gonna
use it
put
to their
up
fullest potential.
a picture real quick. I need to update this subscription goal real quick too.
Also, the Union was getting hit by Confederate sharpshooters on fucking Devil's Den as well. Because once Sickles was pulling back and Devil's Den was lost, you could like I said when you could see it. Tyler, I'll send you a picture of what it looked like from 1863.
Okay.
They were just taking pot shots up there. Like you could see clear as day. So they're shooting all the way from over
Well, I
there.
know that. Okay, let's see if that works. There we go. Okay, and I mean, anyways, I have a picture of Little Round Top here. I was gonna put that up so that we can. There we go.
All right, I'm putting a picture in the study group channel.
It's kind of a good one. I don't know if I want to use that one. See if I can find another one. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like that battle was crazy too. But focusing back to the sharpshooters is what.
Yeah.
I'm still giving at that caused that I think to go the way it did. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
I'm not gonna give them the entire credit because there's so many different things that are factoring on the second day of July. So I don't think you can properly go in and say like, oh, all of these guys are attacking just Little Round Top, and it's all attributed to the sharpshooters. Like, absolutely not. I mean,
No,
there's
you got
so
the battle.
many separate So
Yeah,
many
you had
separate
like
battles.
Culp's Hill going. You had Culp's Hill, the battle for Culp's Hill going on the right flank.
Culp's Hill, absolutely. You have after Culp's Hill, you've got Peach Orchard, which is, I mean, I guess you could consider the same attack because that's all part of Longstreet's assault. And you've got some of the stuff going on at Cemetery Ridge with the center being broken and the ultimate story of the First Minnesota. One of my favorite stories is the First Minnesota, man. That damn. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked on the fucking first again. So we know a little bit now about Francis. That was kind of what I wanted to do, is just shed some light on who he was and some of the things that he went through to try to get a pension, and they told him no, that he was pretty much faking. But where exactly was he when they? Right, so we look into this pension that he says, and maybe we can do some investigating tonight, and that's exactly again what the stream is about. Like, he doesn't get a pension, but he's at some of these like very instrumental battles that you would think he'd get a pension for, because these are, I mean, national parks now, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of sick that he didn't get that. And I know I think you missed the letter I got. I have a pension record here from my ancestor, Francis J. McGraw, who served in the 1st United States Sharpshooters. And he was never really wounded. He got sick like 10 times. The dude's just unlucky as hell.
Yeah.
But because of that, it apparently left him an invalid. And he went to get a pension from the government because it was a direct cause from the war. And he wasn't working after the war, and they didn't give him shit. They were just like, dude, you're a fucking bum. I mean, that's kind of how they treated him. So what that makes me wonder, I'm like, well, I want to see, was he just a bum? Like, generally, like, didn't like the military service, so, maybe I can fake being sick and go home and stay home. And then mooch.
I mean, what's sad is that you can still do that today.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that, I don't want that to be the case, but it could be. It could be something I'm faced with. But that's what my next goal is to find out, what is happening at this spot. Is he really in a position where he could catch this? Because he's detailed. He's, the first U.S., he's going to be with them. They didn't give him any special assignments outside of that. That was one thing I need to understand. Is like, where is he exactly on this field to give somebody the impression that he's faking it, or that he's not worthy of a pension? maybe I can get a pension for him. That's the goal here. Don't tell anybody. I'm gonna get his pension.
Yeah.
I'm coming
Yeah.
for you, pension office. If you're still open, I know it's been about 100 years, but if you're still open, let me come in and get some fucking pensions for this guy, man. He's my great grandfather. I mean, I think I have some right to try and like fight for it. If somebody knows anybody from the pension office, help me out.
No CIA, NSA. Do not know pension office.
Nah, I don't know anything FBI, man.
That's who I was talking. Yeah, that's who I was talking to. I was talking to our friendly neighborhood agents that are watching it on the stream, and like, you better not talk about Confederates. I'm going to talk about a Confederate in a minute, so I'm sorry.
Y'all better not talk about rebels.
See, is the Alamo still is the Alamo taboo? Because I mean, technically,
I don't know if you live
a couple
in
years
Texas,
later,
it's kind of whatever.
it's kind of like
Shit.
you need to know this for your quiz coming up on Tuesday.
Especially if you live in Texas, it's like we have a whole.
Oh, I got muster rolls over here
Like,
too. This is
class
okay.
about
Hold
it.
on.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had some of this stuff. This is pretty cool. Compendium on War of the Rebellion. On page 1404. Huh. I've got muster roll right here, and I see McGraw on there. Arrange papers, invalid claims, declaration, soldiers' statements as to origin, 3AG, 4SG, 5 certification. Let history as to origin, continuance, and follow regular order. In widows, oh, this is widow claims. What the hell? These are some very interesting documents, guys. I've never really dealt with these before. So this is the first for me to see. There's his letter. Yeah, so I got the copy here. And I'll be a lot of there's gonna be show notes if you guys want to go back later and see what some of the things I'm gonna be showing you tonight. If you want to go look at the actual documents that I have, I'm gonna go ahead and scan them through the phone and throw them up on a file. It'll be free to download, of course, provided for resource if y'all ever may use it. I don't know if any. I know a lot of grad students do some interesting veteran projects recently, so this could be something very beneficial. And on both sides, I've got some stuff for Duffy as well, who's a Confederate veteran. And again, I know quite a few people who've done grad study programs specifically studying veterans. So they'll be in the show notes for you guys provided. I just think it'd be great to have these resources. This right here is a copy of the letter I read earlier. This would be one that Francis wrote himself to the notary to try and gain his pension. And we know again at the end the pension's told there's nothing to substantiate his claim. Nothing he could find, catch hell and dysentery twice. That in itself, I would.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what happened. He caught dysentery twice.
Yeah.
Partial deafness in the left ear. From freezing in Fredericksburg, and loss of speech.
Rightfully say he was fucked up.
Right, and then after the war, even after discharge, he's still suffering from random bouts of dysentery. And that random bout of dysentery is causing him, in turn, to not be able to be effective, especially when it comes to, like, manual labor or physical jobs like that.
Oh yeah.
All of a sudden, he'll just
Right.
get dysentery.
Mm-hmm. But
That's how it works.
in a time post-war where
Yeah.
you have so many veterans that, truly, I'm sorry to say, were bums. There was nothing wrong with them, but they could use a claim like that, and there might be that one sympathetic guy at the pension office. It's just like, shit, there, son, you had a bad day. $5 a month for you and your family.
Which was a lot back
right,
then. I
something
think.
like that would be a decent amount. I'm not saying it'd be $5. It could be like $14 a month. I don't know. I'm not diving into the money right now. I'm just talking about the general idea of, these are what they're dealing with. So is this something he's using to do something very similar? Is he saying that I had dysentery here and then I had it again just to try and exacerbate his position? Maybe he had it once, but knew that once wasn't enough to qualify for a pension, so he exaggerates. I've had it 2 times. I haven't actually hasn't gone anywhere. He could have only had it
I
once at
have
Chickahominy Swamp.
random.
And what gets me too is
Dysentery.
it's his speech loss. They say he said he's lost his speech at Fredericksburg, right? And that he has partial deafness in his ear and he can only hear loud things.
What does that mean? Like
Speech
loss
loss.
of speech?
That's the thing. What does that mean? Can he physically not make sound? Is he a mute? Or is he shell shocked? Is this PTSD? Is this something different than, these are what ifs, so I don't want to dive into a rabbit hole of that.
Yeah.
But you do bring a valid point and something that should be looked at. Like, I mean, what does he mean by loss of speech? Is that something that we need to look further into? Because it says he gains it back, but he's also talking about partial deafness and not being able to hear. Did a shell go off by his head? Is he just like going mentally nuts? I mean, well, what's happening?
By the not being able to speak, they because I remember in the movie Patton they kind of addressed it some. People that believe in battle fatigue, so they called it they didn't believe in shell shock, so they called it battle fatigue. So that could be the same thing.
That's what I'm thinking. Because it says, again, I don't want to dive too deep in this. I already read it, but let me pull my letter back up real quick, just to go over this one part where it talks about kind of the treatment he gets, and it's interesting. I mean, it was very interesting to see that. Again, everybody, if you guys are just now tuning in, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Those in Discord, thank you guys for discussing Civil War with me and having a good, very open conversation, which is always fun. You guys are well known and good for that. So, thank you. Fishy, I know you just got in here, so I want to kind of go over, just real quick, just so you kind of catch up. And then we're going to start moving over to the last ancestor before I get off here, because I got to get off at 11:30. So I think I did good. I covered 30 minutes of the Union guy, and then I'll do 30 minutes of the Confederate guy and call it a night.
Oh, shoot, that's it.
That's fair.
Yeah, this is a test. This is a test too. This isn't even the first big official history stream. The cool one would be tomorrow, and we do the actual study group, and I have a day to kind of go through stuff. I'm not even going to tell you what the topic is. I'm going to surprise you. I'm just going to come up with something tonight and go at it tomorrow, and we'll talk about it. My question to y'all, actually, I'll let you all vote on something too, but let me finish. Get back on track. So, the history behind his disabilities come from this. It's supposedly the swamps of Chickahominy at Gaines's Mill, the Battle of Gaines's Mill, which is 7 days around Richmond in 1862.
Yeah.
They said he had swamp fever, and both were incurred from standing on picket in said swamp, sometimes up to the waist in water, and constantly surrounded by the malarial influences, protecting the engineer corps while they were laying the bridges across the Chickahominy River. That he was treated for both dysentery and swamp fever in the hospital at Gaines's Mill and was confined in said hospital some time. That he rejoined his company next to Harrison's Landing, Virginia, and a few days after his arrival, he was again sent to hospital suffering with the said dysentery and swamp fever at Harrison's Landing. That he stayed in the hospital there nearly a month, and although sick and weak still, he rejoined the regiment and remained in the army and suffered along with said complaints. And that December of 1862, previous to the Battle of Fredericksburg, Virginia, he became speechless from cold and exposure, and the weakened condition of his system from the effects of the disease aforesaid, and also lost his hearing so that he could only hear the loudest noises. That he continued with the regiment, though suffering greatly, being treated by the regimental surgeon, Surgeon George M. Brennan of the 1st U.S. Sharpshooters, until the army reached Falmouth, and up to March 6, 1863, when he received a furlough for 10 days to go home to Albany. So he's, they're attributing it to the cold, but I mean, it does sound like battle fatigue. You're not wrong. That sounds like something they could diagnose like that. But is it? I'm not a fucking doctor.
So it also could be hypothermia, because that would make you not be able to talk for a while.
No, sure.
I've had it before up in Canada, and it was not good.
No, that's also, that's probably the most plausible thing to think about.
Yeah.
Being hypothermia. So the cool thing I'm going to do before we get off here is I want to check out whether he's making the right claim or not, or if he's making something up, because we can find out where the first United States sharpshooters were thereabouts at Chickahominy River. We can find out what they were doing exactly, because I have this, again, which I was showing people earlier in the stream. This is a regimental history actually written by one of the captains of the Verdun sharpshooters. So I'm getting a first source account of what they were doing on the days of the battles that they were engaged in from someone that participated in the battles. those are the best things you could possibly ever get, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right, victory at Hanover Courthouse. Not where I need to go. Peak Station. Chickahominy Swamp. What the hell? Wow, so this is not really finding anything with Company B. But he would have been Company B. I'm seeing Chickahominy Swamp. It starts with 7 days battle. No, General Reynolds, conflict, Bucktails. Huh. So again, what I'm looking for is just to try to get a quick account of what happened at Gaines's Mill with the first U.S. so we kind of know thereabouts what was really going on.
Mm-hmm.
And what could have been the situation where he contracted that illness. What would have been the conditions, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I can believe it if he was in a swamp. Swamps are nasty.
And
Never wanna be in
Chickahominy
there
is
for too
just
long.
that's a giant swamp too going out of the Chickahominy River.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, yeah, not good.
Never want to fight in a swamp.
Mm-mm. Beaver Dam Creek. No, we're not at Gaines's Mill yet. There we go. All right, so give the Gaines's Mill account. I don't think it's very long either, which is kind of nice. Oh, I lied. Holy shit, that's long. All right, I'm just gonna breathe until I see anything with Company B. Cause that's who, General McCall. I think he has the third main. 6 companies of sharpshooters were engaged in this battle. Companies D, E, F. And that's not B. Where in the ever-loving heck is the first U.S. Company B? I wonder if they're detailed out on another mission. And that might be where the bridge building was at. Because I know they said Chickahominy Swamp at Gaines's Mill, but I mean, I literally see nothing of Company B at all.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. No. Company C, D, E, F, K were the ones that participated in the Gaines's Mill battle. Major Trepp's companies A and I were at a place called the Garnett Farm. It's kind of a little interesting blurb here since we are, I mean, I know we're talking about Company B, but I mean, since we are still incorporating the entire 1st U.S. Sharpshooters because it's still the regiment. Really quick excerpt that you might find interesting. It says, during the time of the Gaines's Mill battle, the enemy on the south side of the Chickahominy were by no means idle. On the contrary, they were very aggressive, particularly in the front of General Smith's division, 2nd Division, General Franklin's 6th Army Corps, where more or less fighting occurred all day, in which the enemy admit serious losses. General Hancock's brigade, having been placed in the front line early in the morning, bore the brunt of the enemy's repeated demonstrations. But as Hancock had been ordered to avoid, as far as possible, a general engagement, his efforts were only directed to keep the enemy off repulsing his several attacks, which he succeeded in doing, as well as silencing, from time to time, his artillery. In this latter service, Major Trepp's command of sharpshooters, Companies A and Company I, performed a very important part when in the afternoon, being sent forward, they effectually silenced the enemy's guns. This in front of our infantry lines, it being a dual engagement between the rebel artillery and our sharpshooters after the affair in the connection with some New Jersey troops, they assisted in repulsing a fierce charge of the enemy, the battle lasting about 3/4 of an hour, and General Hancock says of them, they performed excellent service during the contest, driving back the enemy skirmishers, who threatened in advance towards our left flank. They also did considerable execution on the right of the enemy's force attacking me from Garnett's house. So well did they respond to the desperate attack that they exhausted their ammunition. And that's the 1st U.S. Sharpshooters Company A and I. I'm not seeing a lot when it comes to Company B, so that to me says that they're more than likely dispatched. Or, on a detail, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Which is understandable. Especially if he's saying he's building a bridge. And maybe that's White Oak Swamp that he's talking about. But I'm looking at White Oak Swamp right now, and I don't see a single company except for Company H. No, Confederates, batteries, dirty guns. And Company H. Where's Company B at all? I mean, every other company's shown up but them. There's Bottoms Bridge. Battery H. What a conundrum.
Were they possibly assigned to another unit at the time?
That's kind of what I'm trying to find out. It says here, and this is his words when I quote. This is his wording, his letter to the notary office, and he talks about his wounding. The last company he says he's in, quote, Company B of the 1st Regiment of the United States Sharpshooters for 5 years immediately preceding his enlistment. So he stays there. He doesn't transfer out. The only thing he transfers into is in... Where was it? I saw it earlier about the Veteran Reserve Corps. He was admitted to the hospital there as sick and unfit for duty, and he was transferred from there to the Veteran Reserve Corps in July 1863. So this is July 1863 is a whole almost year after this happens. So this is a year before, where he's getting, the battles around Richmond are taking place, and he claims that he's getting dysentery.
I mean, all this sounds plausible, but
You think he's faking?
it's
Be
a
honest.
bit.
Be honest. I want to hear it. That's why I have you guys in here.
No, if he was in a swamp, I can believe he had dysentery.
What's
Along
the
with hypothermia causing
Okay.
That whole area was. Botswain Swamp was there.
Yeah.
Chickahominy Swamp was there. I mean, it's not a clean area. It was a breeding ground, an infestation of disease. Absolutely. So it's you said plausible. I like that.
Yeah, my problem is like, what's the odds of getting all 3 diseases at once?
Very high.
Yeah.
If you're in a
Oh,
swamp.
okay.
And then Malvern Hill
Especially
is
back
right there
then.
on the side of the James River. Like they're river
Yeah.
defenses. I mean, these are literally breeding grounds for like mosquitoes. And with the Virginia weather, it's very humid up here, especially in the summer months. This battle is taking place when Gaines's Mill is what, the 30th of June? June 30th is Gaines's Mill. June 27th.
Oh, yeah, no, that's...
So, according to you, it's very plausible to get all 3 diseases at once.
If you're in a swamp or
You can
area
get
like a swamp
coronavirus
that humidity
and cancer,
heat.
can't you? I mean, like, you can have diabetes and have COVID-19 or have the flu. Sure, it's possible.
You also got to remember that 1862, 1863, medicine isn't really advanced at this time. Neither is
No.
really the importance of
Not at all.
Mm.
hygiene.
Yeah, trust me, I'm a lifeguard and I have better training than most doctors did back then.
I want to know where Company B is at, darn it. That's kind of important to know. I'm not giving up on it. I'm just frustrated that I can't find Company B.
You also got to remember as well that, during Civil War and all that, they weren't really taking showers every day.
Yeah.
Once a year.
So it's very, very possible that he could have gotten all 3 at the same time. If
Sorry, I
anything,
just didn't know. I'm just
Yeah.
like not educated in all this.
No, you're good. Fucking, like especially with all those factors though coming up together, that increases your chance, like almost like double or triples your chances of getting it.
Yeah.
And plus, when you're tired, your immune system gets weaker.
For sure, yeah. I've had that happen.
And it's tough. I'm not able to find anything for B.
All right, guys. Well, I gotta get off.
All right, bud. Well, thank you for joining up with us for a little bit.
Yeah.
Catch you later, man.
See y'all tomorrow.
Yes, sir. We'll be on. I am having such a shit show.
13 and 8? That's my best round so far.
Malvern Hill. That's a bad battle. That's a nasty fucking fight, man. I'm trying to see if he's even gonna show up in here. I do believe he was at Malvern Hill. I think, but no, he. Where did he go?
Wait,
Harrison's Landing? Is that what he said? Yeah. He was
So
treated. Good.
I was gonna say, I'm curious, real quick.
Sure.
Freaking
What's up?
trying to think of what I was gonna say. So you said he went to the hospital around July like 27th of 63.
Yep. He went June. This is in June.
Okay, so he.
In June
I was gonna say,
1862.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 1863.
He was first taken with dysentery in the swamps of the Chickahominy at or near Gaines's Mill, Virginia, in June 1862, resulting from swamp fever, and both incurred from standing on picket in the said swamps, sometimes up to the waist in water, and constantly surrounded by the malarial influences, protecting the engineer corps while they were laying the bridge across the Chickahominy River. That he was treated for both dysentery and swamp fever in the hospital on Gaines's Mill, and was confined in said hospital some time. That he rejoined his company next at Harrison's Landing, Virginia, and a few days after his arrival, he was again sent to the hospital suffering with the said dysentery and swamp fever at Harrison's Landing. That he stayed in the hospital there nearly a month. And although sick and weak, he rejoined the regiment. End quote. So
Okay.
I mean, there's a few things you can say with that, you know.
Okay. Yeah. When did
Yeah.
you say that he was deemed unfit for battle?
When he was deemed unfit for battle.
Yeah, and was sent to the veteran reserve unit.
Shit.
I think that's what you said was 1863, wasn't it?
Yeah, and see, the pension said 1864. I don't know if this is a typo on my part or if it's that, but it did say 1863 on my paper here. But I believe the pension itself says 64.
Okay.
But that wouldn't make sense. And
I was gonna say if it says 63, I'm kind of curious.
Yes, he was admitted to
why.
the hospital as sick and unfit for duty, and he was transferred from there to the Veteran Reserve Corps in July 1863.
Did it say why? Like
That
or he
in
was
said
just-
hospital at Albany, New York, he was all the time under medical treatment. He was speechless, his hearing was greatly impaired, and he was suffering from dysentery, which had become chronic before.
See, now that kind of makes me curious because you said that's
And
that's
that
the
his
end of
speech came back to him in August 1863, after he had been transferred to the Veterans Reserve Corps.
Okay.
No,
See, this is-
hold on a minute. Tater, you were maybe onto something, dude. I need to write that down on a piece of fucking paper.
Sorry, what was I on to? I kind of.
You said he kind of sounded sus. Like, we're about to vote old Green out here. If we're going to call him Green since he's in the Verdant Sharpshooters. He's sus. He said that he got his speech back a month after being transferred into the Veteran Reserve Corps. Now, I don't want to attribute that directly to him being, and discrediting him completely. But sus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also got to remember that, the same time, this is weeks after the Battle of Gettysburg. So the hearing loss is very probable because if you said that they were towards the peach orchard and all that, right?
Yeah.
Well, artillery and all that was very prevalent in that battle, and it's
Sure.
very possible on both sides, especially, Sickles getting hit by his own cannon and all that shit. Like, that's just saying how close all the cannon fire was.
Yeah.
And also, the shots from fucking Gettysburg were being heard all the way over in Harrisburg and all that.
And they were.
And fucking not Harrisburg. Fucking what's it called? Chancellorsville, I think. Whatever.
Not
You know what I'm
Chancellorsville,
talking
yeah.
about, right? It's like the big ass town that's close
Carlisle?
to Gettysburg. No, it's Give me a
Cashtown?
second. No, it starts with a CH. Chambersburg, I think.
Chambersburg.
No, hang on.
Chambersburg,
that's
yeah,
right.
you're right. So there's the Chambersburg Pike, the Baltimore Pike, Steinwar Avenue. I'm trying to remember all the roads. Tawnytown Road, Wheatfield Road, Sickles Avenue, Hancock Avenue.
If all this cannon fire is being heard,
I guess they name it, but
40
Hey.
miles away, 50. It's kind of.
I think
kinda
I
adds
have
up
some
to
stuff to mull over here. definitely when it comes to my ancestor here, so I can get you guys more of a concise story. But I wanted to open the floodgates early, so we had just an interest in him at least. And I'm gonna leave us with that on.
No, he
Francis
sounds
James
very
Law.
interesting.
He does, and now I didn't. This is all me learning too, because I haven't actually sat down to address these papers yet, because I knew what the hell was gonna happen, and I didn't expect it to even be this big. So this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Very excited for this one. Now the next one
This
that I'm
might-
gonna show. Go ahead. What?
This might make me sound like a bit of a zoomer, but it's basically like playing like 100-year-old or 200-year-old
Detective.
game of Among Us.
Oh yeah, we're voting. No, yeah, that too. I mean, it could be like Among Us. We're gonna vote him off the island, go dig him up, and be like, "You're sus," and then bury him. And... No,
This
it ain't
leads
gonna
me
be
down
that.
to-
But it, no,
this
it
leads me
needs
down to-
absolutely. This is important. This is discovering your family roots,
Yeah,
where you're
this
from.
lead-
You know, is
Yeah.
my great grandfather someone who faked a disease and somehow was transferred to the Veteran Reserve Corps? Like, oh, yep, chipper, I'm good. I can talk again. I'm all right. Nothing happened. Or is he someone?
Yeah, like
that-
after the big battle, like, oh yeah, I'm fine now. After the
Mhm.
big battle.
That's what it sounds like,
Yeah.
because he gets admitted in July. So the dude's mute from Fredericksburg all the way to July. You've had 2 months to fucking warm up, bud. Like, does it actually hold that long?
Yeah, like this leads me down to kind of two theories as well. Like I know I said this already, but this is just weeks after
Yeah.
Gettysburg happened. 50,000 casualties combined on.
And
both
he's not
sides,
even
right?
in Gettysburg. Maybe he is. I'm not sure. It says he marches with. Yeah, he did. He marched from Fredericksburg. So yeah, maybe he. Gettysburg was his breaking point.
Yeah, this kind of leads me down to two theories. Fucking
PTSD.
Yeah,
I want to go with that one. That is what I am seeing, and I think they're
Yeah,
they're misdiagnosing by saying that. Okay, the things he's going through with the swamp fever, because it's giving you a double dose of a disease that was caused by this.
yeah,
But
like
then
and like I
it's-
said, like it comes down to
I'm
two
with it.
very relevant possibilities that it could have been like just such fucking trauma and all that shit from that battle. It could have been too much for him, and he was just like, nah, man. And he could have, the hearing loss does add up. Like I said,
Right.
with the battle is he tortured and all that fucking shit. And it does add up with the hearing loss. I mean, I guarantee, I don't think he was lying about that, because you gotta think of it. Fucking all these guns going off in your ear. They don't know what ear pro is back then. They were just firing that shit without fucking earplugs.
Yeah, I mean, artillery typically have bloody ears. I mean, they
Yeah.
blood coming out of their ears. Like, this is bad. This isn't
Yeah.
good. So, I know, I
And
understand.
Yeah, like it's very relevant that he could have either said like, "Hey man, this shit's too much," and like faked like an illness or anything. I'm not saying that he did. I'm just saying it's
No.
a possibility, or
I'm not saying he
he
did either.
actually had these.
I-
Yeah,
it's too early to tell. I'm
Yeah,
not in
like,
a
we don't-
position
we
right
don't
now.
know
where-
much yet.
No, I'm not in a position where I can say, okay, I can openly sit here and claim that yes, he has indeed, faked it. It's not anything serious. Or I could go.
We
to
don't
it and be
know.
like, no, we don't. And then I can go to.
we
it
have
like,
no
hey, he's got
evidence saying yes or no.
This guy is literally suffering from PTSD, and I mean, the symptom, it's complete and totally there. But again, because of the lack of medical knowledge and medical procedure at the time, and you don't really have access to it when you're trying to deal with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of wounded and very traumatic cases on a mass scale level. I mean, no, but because of that, we get things like triage. We get things like the, embalming becomes more of a widespread practice. I mean, you literally had people that were embalming bodies standing at the end of the pontoon bridges at Fredericksburg handing business cards to Union soldiers and say, hey, for a couple bucks or whatever's in your pocket, you stick this card in your pocket, and when you die on that hill today, I'll pick your body up, I'll take it home, I'll make you look pretty and send you home to mom and dad or your wife and kids and whatever it may be.
That's a morbid business to
Very
be in,
morbid
like
business.
right in the middle of
But
the
boy,
war.
was it booming. That's a booming business, man.
I mean, that's capitalism, I guess, but damn.
People say death is another form of harvesting, and it really is, because it feeds many things. And that's something you see in the Civil War quite a bit, which is sad, because it's feeding into people's pocketbooks, but also embalming now becomes a very prominent practice in the United States. There is even, if we could, again, there's so many rabbit holes we could sit here and dive down in tonight when it comes to talking about the Civil War, because we can talk about the good death and what was destroyed at one point as a Victorian death turns into this lonely battlefield death out in the field, and there's no one to watch and witness your death, and it's breaking tradition and breaking the way you think life's gonna go, and because of that, you're in hell. I mean, there's just these crazy beliefs we could just dive into, especially again socio-political and psychology. You could really look in and see some crazy stuff that, I mean, it would just blow your mind of how deep it can go, and it's just something we don't ever stop to think, like, man, this happened to us before. You know, this is, especially in today's climate, I mean, it's very easy for one to turn to history and look at places and situations and people in 1861. You know, how did they handle a situation with the president they didn't like? They fucking left.
Yeah.
They straight left. South Carolina said, I'm gone. The one thing I like, and you know, this isn't anything to do with the party. We haven't convened, and I mean we as the United States and individual states. Obviously, I don't belong to all 50. I belong to Virginia, and I only belong to Virginia, but you know what I mean. They have not sat down with an honest convention for articles of secession. Knock on wood, because knowing how this shit has been going, who knows what could happen. My intuition isn't something I can count on anymore, and it's sad. But that's something I think all of us should take into consideration. This got farther. This went to secession. This went to 5 years of war. Regardless of the cost. The facts are in front of you. This went to a 4-year war, 61 to 65. 5 years. 700,000 American lives. So, I mean, it's something to think about. As we're talking about this stuff tonight, like, and you're learning about these people, they're not any different than most of us. I mean, I'm 25 years old. Duffy, the guy I'm about to introduce you to next, 21 years old. From Middleburg, Virginia. In 1861, Duffy was just a watchmaker, not making much out of a living. He wasn't some crazy rich farmer, Yeoman farmer way of life, aristocratic. Dude was poor as hell. Okay, 21 years old, fresh out of high school, just no real aspiration, no ambition, nothing. Just fresh out of high school, baby faced, small watchmaker. Obviously, the war breaks out, and for a man like Duffy, that's the most excitement he's probably ever gonna have in his life. Maybe in his mind, maybe not. Maybe he had some deeper motives that we don't know about, that he doesn't journal about. But for him, this is huge. This is a big opportunity for him. So Duffy enlists in Delaware Kemper's Battery in 1861, April of 1861. And in July of 1861, he's going to serve and fight with Kemper's Battery at the First Battle of Bull Run, or the First Battle of Manassas. And if you know your history and you know how First Manassas takes place, it's a rout for the Union Army. And you know, where we get Duffy starting to rise to some type of prominence in the war. And again, when I mean prominence, this dude is nowhere on the level of Lee, Jackson, Stewart, Grant. Nothing like that. In fact, he gets bucked for insubordination. Like, yeah. But this is my dad's great-grandfather. My great-great-grandfather. So not as closely related, but still direct descendant. So obviously important person in me, and the first family member I was able to study when it came to the Civil War, and what really kind of drew me to want to stay and study this more than I have. So I'm going to give you a small piece of information about Duffy, because Crick did a wonderful job of compiling some of the men that fought here and just giving them almost what looks like service records, if not service records, but all easily accessible at the National Archives. Again, check back on the show notes to find links to those as well. This is from Parker's Virginia Battery in the appendices. So we're not actually reading text yet. Duffy was a corporal, a sergeant, a private. Transferred into the battery on July 25th, 1862 from Kemper's Virginia Battery, in which he had served since April 17th, 1861. He was 21. He was born July 25th, 1841. Absent wounded by musket ball in the thigh at Sharpsburg. Muster roll number 3, he was present. Muster roll numbers 4 through 7, 10 through 13, he was absent. And he was sick. Muster roll number 9, he was absent on furlough of re-enlistment. Muster roll number 8, he was captured at Marie's Heights, however you want to pronounce it. I do not mean to say it like guys in general, Marie's Heights. Promoted to sergeant. Muster roll number 6, demoted to private. October 1863. Quick, huh? It was claimed on behalf of Duffy that he was responsible for the admirably successful shot that blocked the Cub Run Bridge during the route following 1st Manassas while he was serving with Kemper's battery. Whether he is due that credit or not, Sam Duffy was evidently both a good young soldier and also something of a character at once. Captain Parker certified Duffy as a man of industry and sobriety, and E.P. Alexander commended him in this way: energy, industry, high character, a brave soldier. Unfortunately, Parker and Private Sam had a falling out. As a result of differing lifestyles and personalities, Duffy was court-martialed, bucked for insubordination, sentenced to carry a rail in the snow for another infraction, and otherwise reproached by his stern captain. He finally succeeded in securing a transfer to Woolfolk's Battery just before the war ended. Duffy's fine war diary is at Virginia Historical Society. It covers the period of May 1861 to March 31st, 1864. Not long after the end of the war, Duffy set up a small jewelry and watchmaking shop in Middleburg, Virginia, died at Middleburg on December 23rd, 1926. The site of his jewelry store is now a Safeway parking lot. That I knew. I've stood in the parking lot and was like, oh, this is cool. This is where my ancestor made watches. And he burned to death, which is a sad thing to think about. But it's something you do think about because these are very important moments of his life. It's his death. This is his livelihood. This is the place he comes after the war. It's a parking lot.
It's kind of sad. Like,
Fucking parking lot.
you read like, oh yeah, he did all this. It ended up as a parking lot.
What I want to
That's
end
kinda
with
sad.
tonight is a very cool thing. Now, Duffy, again, he's kind of a very interesting character to begin with. All right, the family that comes over here are actually living in Fredericksburg, so a town that I'm from. This is a town they were out 200 years before me. Jealous. They've lived here longer than me, damn it. I thought I was like the one cool lucky family member that gets to live in Virginia and Fredericksburg, and I'm like, wait, they got to do it first. This whole packet right here is pretty much all on the Duffy family. They say Duffy maternal family history. Tyler, make your own first page like you want it to be. Again, I got a lot of work cut out for me, and it's something I've kind of breezed through some of this stuff. I haven't really dove into the entire things either because there's a lot I do know. But I have 2 sets of the family papers here just to go through and try to make sense of it all. Which I think I can do. George Hurd Duffy, he's buried in Alexandria. There is a newspaper article, though, I have of Ed somewhere, or Sam. We call him Sam Duffy, not Ed. His first name is Edward, but they didn't, again, call him that for some reason. There are 2 spellings of the name Duffy, but and then for future reference, if you, again, try to search Duffy, it'll, again, be in show notes, but just for your own purposes if you do. Duffy is actually spelled with an E-Y instead of D-U-F-F-Y. At least on our family side. So here's some cliff notes again on him that we kind of read. He's the father, or his father, excuse me, I'm reading this wrong. Father of Edward Randolph Duffy, grandfather of Francis Randolph Duffy, great-grandfather of Jacqueline Ann McGraw Neff, great-great-grandfather of Tyler Vincent McGraw. So that's the line we're at now. Artillery Sergeant with Parker's Battery CSA, fired the last shot at Gettysburg. Fought at Vienna, the Battle of Manassas, 7 days around Richmond, Second Battle of Manassas, Antietam, Fredericksburg, Gettysburg, the Tennessee Campaign, and Richmond again in 64 and 65, meaning Petersburg. For that rest of that year. Captured once and traded back for a Yankee. Wounded at Antietam on September 17th, 1862. Kept a diary of his wartime experiences. His granddaughter, Frances Randolph Duffy, my grandmother, found the diary in an attic, showed it to her aunt, who then removed it from her possession and passed it on to family members, where it is now located in Richmond VA Museum. In October 2002, great-granddaughter Jacqueline Neff, daughter of Francis Randolph Duffy, forwarded to the Gettysburg National Military Park material concerning his news article of the firing of the last shot at Gettysburg. See enclosed article and picture. I don't know if I have that article in here. Wow, it's somewhere in here, I guess. This is kind of cool. His name was Edward Samuel Duffy. He was the one that fought with Robert E. Lee in the Civil War. He opened the jewelry shop after the war. He not only repaired jewelry, he even made it. Did I ever tell you about Grandmother Duffy falling in love with a something with a northern wow, these words are so they're writing, it just gets me sometimes, man. I can't figure out what it says. With a northern, it's probably a bad word. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't know if it.
Whoa, what?
Yeah,
what
it's
do you think it
insulting.
says?
It's insulting. Okay, so
Oh,
a
okay.
northern bleep that was camping near Middleburg, ducking the Rebs. Then he had to march on to Winchester and return to war and turn to wait for them. I can't do it. I need time. It's gonna take a while again. Oh boy, one day I'm gonna get it. Okay, I want spelling, I want the article. I know it's in here. I saw it the other day. Here we go. Alright guys, I'm closing again with this article. It's something that I think you all will probably find a lot of maybe some interest in. I don't know. I'm not trying to speak for you. I would think this is interesting enough. This comes out of a Middleburg newspaper out of Middleburg, Virginia here. And I will pull up a picture of him for you so you can follow along. But again, this is going to be it. I hope you all enjoyed this tonight. It was, again, today's kind of like a beta test or alpha, if you will. Tater came up with the idea of podcasting. I like that, so props to him for that. Thank you, Tater.
Welcome.
Just one second, guys. I'm getting the picture pulled up. Oh, first, I'll go ahead and show you his brother. There we go. This, oh, did it go away? There we go. This gentleman here, he is my great-great-grandfather's brother, George Hurd Duffy. He was commander of all artillery ordnance during the war. That'd be him there. Let's see if I can find Duffy here somewhere. I know I saved him a while ago. I just don't know how long ago I saved him. I'm pretty sure I colorized him too. Well. Oops. Alright, sorry guys, I'm getting this pulled up for you 1 second.
Yeah, I gotta get going, man. I'll catch you later.
Alright, bro, yeah, I'm reading this last piece and I'm hopping off for the night too.
Alright, have a good one, guys.
You too, bud.
Two.
I said I want it in dark mode, no. Alright. To hell with it. And that's him. That's old Ed. Or Sam. Go ahead and read it's a newspaper article that came out of the Middleburg newspaper. And it does feature his words directly, so we get some primary source material here, which is wonderful to have. But this is definitely what I'm going to close this out with tonight, guys. And I appreciate you if you stuck with us and watched us, even if you popped in and just kind of saw what we were doing. I appreciate it. It's new. I'm not used to this. This is just, today was a trial, but it went well, I think. And it is something that I want to continue to try and pursue. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start this so we can finish our night and get going. Alright. Title of the article is Soldier Who Fired the Last Shot at Gettysburg Tells His Story. In a quaint little town of Virginia where memories and traditions blend an atmosphere of romance which clings to the place as the green tendrilla of ivy and ancient moss cling to the walls of its picturesque homes, an old Confederate soldier recently celebrated his 84th birthday, unconscious of the fact that he is a figure of historic interest. Edward Samuel Duffy, who fired the last shot at Gettysburg, smiled modestly when asked to tell the story of his unique experience. But his eyes kindled and an expression of adoration crossed his face as he said simply, "I remember it as though it were yesterday, because my general was there." And he instinctively drew his frail body erect and lifted his fine gray head, as though Robert E. Lee himself were standing before him. "How well I remember him," continued the old veteran. "The handsomest figure of a man and the finest soldier I have ever seen. Why, sir, when Robert E. Lee rode a horse, he seemed to be a part of him. And what a general he was. He took all the blame for mistakes that were made, and even in the bittersweet moments, he had a smile for his men. Yes, sir," he proceeded. "It was after Pickett's charge General Lee and General Longstreet were standing together under a tree in the old peach orchard at Gettysburg, when I came out to my gun and 7 men. I was an artillery sergeant with Parker's battery. It was about 7 o'clock on the evening of July 3rd, 1863. And General Lee said something to Longstreet, and the latter came up to me and said, 'Sergeant, have you any ammunition left?' I replied that I had a little canister. 'Very well,' said Longstreet. 'Elevate your gun and give it to those Yanks coming up the road.' We followed his order, and the advancing infantrymen, thinking there was an entire ambush in the orchard, checked their march. Had they known that the head of the Southern forces was at the end of that road, guarded only by 7 men and 1 cannon, their decision might have undergone a swift change. This veteran chuckled at the little joke on the Yankee. And that shot of mine was the last one fired at Gettysburg. He chuckled, still chuckling. Mr. Duffy, in his possession, a letter endorsed by James Longstreet, which states that the incident happened as it is related here, and that his was indeed the last gun fired on the famous battlefield. The letter written to Longstreet by Samuel Duffy read as follows. General James Longstreet, Dear Sir, I write to ask you if you remember ordering a sergeant of artillery to go and fire down the road to the right of the Peach Orchard at Gettysburg, July 3rd, 1863. You and General Robert E. Lee met the gun that I was sergeant of, and we came to the Peach Orchard after the charge of General Pickett. You asked me if I had any ammunition, stated that I had a little canister. You then ordered me to take the piece and elevate it and fire down the road to the right of the orchard when the Yanks were advancing. I did as ordered, and this gun of Parker's battery, Huger's battalion, fired the last shot of Gettysburg. Please endorse this enclosed if they are remembered by you, as I have been keeping a pocket diary over the war and been looking over and desire to see if I have written is correct. Very respectfully signed, Edward Samuel Duffy. Endorsement, Washington, D.C., July 27th, 1900. I remember the incident referred to in this paper. Signed, General Longstreet. Sam Duffy, as he has always been called by his friends, was 19 when the war was declared and left his watchmaking trade to join Lee's army. He enlisted April 15, 1861, in Kemper's Battery Field Artillery at Alexandria, Virginia, and saw service in many of the major engagements during the 4 long years of bloodshed that drained the South of her youth and her resources. At the First Battle of Bull Run, Sergeant Duffy was the hero of another dramatic battle and incident, although the claims that it was purely an accident on his part. It seems that his battery went into this line to aid the Confederates who were driving the Yanks from the field. As the retreating Northerners were about to cross the ford at what is known as Cub Run, just below Bull Run, Duffy fired on them, killing the horse attached to the first wagon and wrecking the vehicles. The fallen horse and wagon blocked the ford and cut off the retreat. The Confederates rushed in and captured the entire Yankee detachment, thus trapped. The captain afterward cited Duffy for his action, which may have been purely providential, as he modestly asserts, but which had all the remarks of a skillful firing on somebody's part. Sergeant Duffy's list of engagements includes the early skirmish of Vienna, the Battle of Manassas, 7 days around Richmond, Second Battle of Manassas, Antietam, Fredericksburg, Gettysburg, the Tennessee Campaign, and Richmond again. He was captured once and traded for a Yankee. Not having any modern Red Cross equipment at hand, he was wounded at Antietam, and the soldiers in the 60s had the shift pretty much for themselves. Sergeant Duffy, with the aid of a comrade, limped from the battlefield after being shot through one leg and dragged himself to the nearest town, where he lay for many months in a hospital. After the army had been forced to admit defeat in that dark hour at Appomattox, Samuel Duffy went home to face the heartbreaking task of assisting his people in bringing order out of the chaos that had once been a glorious Southland. He took up his work where he had left off 4 years ago. 4 years which were to remain with him vividly for more than half a century. He established his little jewelry shop in Middleburg, Virginia, and there he has worked for the watchmaking for the past 55 years in his picturesque little shop. He dreams his dreams of the heroic general who stands out in the loyal mind as the greatest man in the South has ever and yet produced. Tough, huh?
They make the who was it, Robert E. Lee?
Mm-hmm.
They make him sound like a good man.
No, that's because that's 1900. This is a very early article. This collection consists of one item, 17 June 1861 to 31 March 1864 on E.S. Duffy. The diary was kept in Richmond while serving with Kemper's Battery, Alexandria, Confederate States of America on the Peninsula, Army of the Potomac, and Parker's Battery, CSA, Northern Virginia, and Army of the Tennessee, and while a prisoner of war at Fort Delaware in Delaware, PP 107-122. The diary also concerns, in part, the Battle of Fredericksburg, page 73 to 103 to 105, 1st and 2nd Manassas, page 5, 8, 45, Savage's Station, page 27, 7 Pines, page 22, Virginia, Gettysburg, PA, 124, 127, Antietam, Maryland, page 53. Lookout, Maryland, Tennessee, page 155, 160. Bible of Edward Samuel Duffy, given as a gift to wife Amanda Duffy, March 6, 1857. Passed down to his son Edward Randolph Duffy Sr., who passed it down to his daughter Frances Randolph Duffy, who was E.S. Duffy's granddaughter, who passed it down to daughter Jacqueline McGraw Neff, who was E.S. Duffy's great-granddaughter, passed down to Tyler McGraw, who was E.S. Duffy's great-grandson. Great-great-grandson. So I get that when my Aunt Jackie's ready to give it to me. Last but not least, folks, I'm going to do one more thing. I did mention earlier that George Hurd Duffy was my great-great-uncle, and I did find that one article that I kind of wanted to talk about that has him in it as well. And I showed you this picture earlier. I'm sure, let me see if you can see it. That picture earlier of the Major Duffy. So I'm going to go ahead and refinish this one and then capping it off tonight because I need some sleep. Maybe I don't have the entire thing. The silver spurs worn by General Robert E. Lee at Appomattox were made by my great-uncle, Major George Duffy, an artillery officer in ordnance duty at Headquarters, Army of Northern Virginia. Major Duffy, the third generation of family of Alexandria silversmith, was the son of George Hurd Duffy and the grandson of John Duffy, who made the silver trowel used by George Washington in laying the cornerstone of the United States Capitol in 1793. Major Duffy constituted the family business of silver. The original silver spurs were made by General Lee in Alexandria. Silversmith were on display at Washington and Lee University. They are in excellent condition with the straps and buckles intact. Which appeared in the journal. January issue of the Mid-Atlantic Antique Journal points out some facts concerning Robert E. Lee which are not generally known and are of local interest. With the permission of the author, the editors of the Antique Journal and the Gazette is pleased to run the timely story of the occasion of famous general's birthday today. The great niece of Major Duffy, the writer recalls the stories handed down for generations in her family. She substantiated these from maternal material loaned by her cousin George S. Duffy of Arlington, great-grandson of the Major. Conversations with the Major's great-granddaughter, Mrs. James P. Norton, Ferry Farm, Mount Vernon, and visits the reference section of the Alexandria Central Library. Alrighty. Well, again, guys, I wanted to give you a huge thank you for sticking with me tonight. It was a really fun time being able to study some and, go through a lot of this stuff. Because I think it'll be a fun little study we got going on here. And Tate, I appreciate you hanging out and keeping up with all the craziness.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Alright, folks. Well, I will be on tomorrow. We will be doing a surprise history lesson. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. We're working on getting that figured out now. But until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I will see you.